He comes back later, 14 years. According to Acts chapter 15, whether you think this is the same as Galatians 2 or a different meeting, he could have come to Jerusalem 3 times. And the question every time is, hey, what's the gospel? What did Jesus look like when you saw him? You all agree with me or not? Oh, you do? Good. I'll be back to see you later. Could you imagine these carpenters and fishermen when they see Paul coming up for the second time and third time? Peter says, James, look who's coming. This guy wears me out. You know, by our definition today, I think we could claim, I say this lovingly, I think Paul was a little obsessive compulsive. He just had to get it the right way every time, perfectly, and that's repeated again and again and again. And Peter's not like that, you know? He just kind of used to go on. James, here he comes. You talk to him. I talked to him last time. Not me, man. I've been there too. John, come here. You don't fight with anybody. Come here. You talk to him. Oh, hey, Paul. How you doing, man? Here's my point. I think we can benefit from Paul's attitude. He doesn't go once, doesn't go twice, comes 3 times, always asking the same thing. Yeah, we have our differences. In Galatians 2, he gets in a little spat with Peter about whether Gentiles should be accepted on equal grounds at the table. You know, are they eating this? Are they have the same purification food rules as we do? But there's no disagreement about the nature of the gospel. And I think this argument shows that you got some folks in the right place at the right time. And they died for this. You go, well, the world's full of people today who die for things. But that's my point. Whenever someone dies, here's what you always concede. It doesn't mean what they died for is true, but it means they thought it was true. Right? You only die willingly for what you believe to be true. But if these 4 guys and others believed it was true enough to die, you know the 4 that we're talking about here? We have stories about, we have accounts of their martyrdom. 3 out of 4 of them by 95 AD. You remember my chart? Before you get to that wall over there, before the first century's over, we have accounts of 3 of their 4 martyrdoms. Only John, we don't have a martyrdom account. We have Paul's martyrdom recorded, Peter's martyrdom recorded, James, the son of Jesus, Josephus, tells us that he was stoned, crushed by a mob of his own countrymen. So they believe this. But you know what? If we believe that, that just means we believe it. But if these guys believe it, here's the key. They were in the place to know whether they saw Jesus or not. So a vote that says, I believe he was raised, is a vote that says, I saw him and I'm sure that's what I saw. Okay, now, I've just got about 5 minutes here. Some of the fellows asked if I would say just a couple things. I told you at the beginning about my being kind of a skeptic and where this went. Am I out? All right, some of us want to talk to us about this. All right, how's that? Better? Thanks. I told you about my skeptical trek and my debate with Christians. Hey, during that time, you might get a kick out of this. My mom called me one day. I was in grad school, and she knew I was kind of wandering from the faith a little bit. She said, how's your studies coming? And I said, I'm about 3 months from becoming a Buddhist. I was just being straight up. My mom was not impressed. But on this end of things, after I did all this, I finished my dissertation way back in 1976, so most of you weren't even born for 20 more years or something like that. Which would make you about 7 today. In 1994, this time of the year, we just celebrated Easter, my wife was having some flu-type symptoms. And make a long story short, they sent us up to the University of Virginia. Now, I don't know down here, is it Duke Medical School, UNC Medical School? I mean, you know, Duke is the one up there where you send all your hard cases. I'm sorry, UVA is the one you send up there. Do I need to put this farther down or up? Or
Move the other microphone along.
I thought this one wasn't working. How's that? Okay. I need you around more often. I travel with guys who work on computers and will put my website up here because I don't know anything about it. I can barely type those letters and I do it with 2 fingers. And I misspelled my name. So my wife and I went up to UVA medical school the day after Easter 1995. She was having some symptoms and they couldn't figure this out. They brought about 5 doctors in. They're going to prepare her for surgery. They knew she was having a stomach problem. They didn't know what was going on. 2 days after Easter 1995, they did surgery and the doctor came in the room. You know, one of these specialists of specialists, the ones that the specialists go to see. This guy was an OBGYN oncologist. If you're a female and you're having female issues and people are using the word C word, you don't want to see this guy. You know, I mean, this is not the guy you want to get the verdict from. And he came in and sat in the room. My 2 sister-in-laws had come down from Detroit. And he said, I got bad news for you, I got good news for you. The good news is your wife does not have ovarian cancer, which is what they suspected. He said, but the bad news is your wife's got stomach cancer, which I learned from our oncologist later is arguably the worst kind of cancer you can have. It's in the liver family, but unlike liver cancer, you can't do a transplant. And my world just exploded. My wife and I were extremely close. We have 4 children. In fact, I showed you their pictures. They're doing well. But the little guy who had his fist up to my daughter's, if you can't see, but he put his fist on her chin, he just turned 21. He was 9 when this happened. And I said, did you get it? And he said, this kind of cancer is not treated with surgery, it's treated with chemo. Well, all right, that doesn't sound good, but at least we hope the chemo gets it. I later met with the oncologist and she said, chemo won't touch this. It's all over. It's level 4. Shouldn't have long to live. And I started measuring my life in shocks. We went home 2 weeks after that. It was the first week in May, 1995. And my wife said, you know, you can tell me anything, level with me, but just don't tell me how long I have. Well, they weren't telling me how long, but they were just saying not long. They brought her home and she was taking medicine for pain and she was sleeping 18 hours a day and I had a child monitor up in a room, the kids were in school and I would go sit on the front porch or something while she was sleeping. And I would talk to the Lord and I would say, I mean, the point I'm getting at is how the resurrection is relevant to today. I mean, how there's more than just history and Paul and all these guys, and what difference the resurrection is a trajectory to the future. If Jesus has been raised from the dead, he promises eternal life. I mean, that can't be taken lightly if you have all this evidence for the resurrection. So I'm sitting there thinking about this on the porch, and I'm thinking, oh, great, my doubts will probably come back. And they never did, and I'm really thankful for that. And, you know, she'd cough or something, and I'd go running back up there, and all she'd do was turn over, and I'd come back down, and I'd sit on the porch, and I'd say, Lord, what's going on? I mean, is it not enough that I try to serve you, and I'm doing this, and, you know, it takes a lot of abuse to go out and do some of this stuff, and she's up there, and she's 43 years old, for crying out loud, and I've got 4 kids, and my wife was, she's a graduate of beauty college, but she didn't go into hairdressing, and she stayed home, that's what she wanted to do, and that's great. But she's got a husband here who doesn't know the difference between the white clothes and the colored clothes, and which one goes on what cycle, and how long you do this with, and oh wow, the kids need breakfast when they get up in the morning. And you know what? I think they have to take a lunch to school. I'm not really sure, but I think they need to take a lunch to school. And you know what? They expect dinner to be on the table when they get home. And oh yeah, and they need help with homework. And my wife had a tube coming out of her stomach, and I had to feed her 3 times a day through this tube, and I had to give her 4 rounds of medicine. And I take the tubes out and wash them with vinegar water during the day. I take my phone off the hook. It was a very, very trying time for us. I said she came home the 2nd week in May. The 1st week in August, she passed away. And it's like my life was just, I mean, I was fine with my faith. I didn't go back to doubting. But I did ask the Lord a lot about pain and suffering. And I had this make-believe conversation with the Lord, and I mean, you know, I didn't hear a voice, but I mean, to me, the conversation was something like this. And I'm saying, Lord, Why?